Have you ever wondered where viruses came from? What is their origin story? It's a fascinating riddle, isn't it? The enigmatic beginnings of these microscopic entities that have such a profound impact on our world. The mystery of viral origins is a topic that has puzzled scientists for ages, and there are three main hypotheses that attempt to unravel it. First, we have the Regressive Hypothesis, also known as the escape or cellular origin hypothesis. Next up is the Regressive Hypothesis, alternatively referred to as the reduction hypothesis or the degeneracy hypothesis. And lastly, we have the virus first hypothesis, suggesting that viruses predate even the most ancient cellular life forms. Each of these hypotheses presents a unique perspective, and each has its own set of strengths and weaknesses. They offer us different lenses through which we can look back in time and attempt to understand the mysterious origins of viruses. So, let's delve into these hypotheses and see if we can unravel this enigma. The Regressive Hypothesis, also known as the escape or cellular origin theory, proposes a fascinating perspective. This hypothesis suggests that viruses arose from mobile genetic elements that escaped from the genome of the last universal common ancestor, also known as LUCA, or from the genome of ancient cellular life. These renegade elements, having gained the ability to move from one place to another within the genome, eventually acquired the capability to exit one cell and enter another, thereby becoming what we now recognize as viruses. The implications of this theory are significant. It proposes that viruses are, in essence, pieces of genetic material that have gone rogue. It also suggests that viruses are not so different from the cells they infect, having originated from the same genetic material. This could potentially explain why viruses are so adept at hijacking cellular machinery to reproduce. However, the Regressive Hypothesis is not without its limitations. One major critique is that it fails to account for the unique structures found in viruses, such as the protein coat or capsid that encloses the viral genome. These structures are not found in other cells, and it is unclear how they could have evolved if viruses originated from cellular genetic material. Another point of contention is the extraordinary diversity of viruses. If viruses originated from cellular genetic material, we might expect them to be as diverse as the cells from which they arose. But the reality is that viruses exhibit a level of diversity that far exceeds that of their cellular counterparts. Lastly, the Regressive Hypothesis doesn't fully explain how viruses became obligate parasites. If viruses originated from cellular genetic material, at what point did they lose the ability to replicate independently and become completely reliant on host cells? So, the Regressive Hypothesis offers one possible explanation, but it leaves some questions unanswered. It's these unanswered questions that drive further research, pushing the boundaries of our understanding of viruses and their origins. The Regressive Hypothesis, also known as the reduction or degeneracy theory, takes a different approach. Stepping away from the Regressive Hypothesis, we now delve into the Regressive Hypothesis. This theory posits that viruses were once small parasitic cells, which over time experienced a loss of unnecessary genetic and cellular components. This reduction or degeneration, if you will, was due to their adaptation to a parasitic lifestyle, leading to the evolution of the viruses we know today. Now, this hypothesis paints a vivid picture of evolution, a survival of the fittest scenario where only the essential components needed for a parasitic life were retained. Imagine it as a minimalist approach to survival, where viruses strip down to their bare essentials to thrive in their host-dependent existence. However, as intriguing as this hypothesis might be, it does face some substantial critiques. One of the main criticisms revolves around the presence of certain genes in viruses that have no counterparts in cells. These unique genes, like a puzzle piece that doesn't quite fit, pose a challenge to the Regressive Hypothesis. If viruses indeed evolved from small parasitic cells, then where did these unique genes come from? Additionally, the Regressive Hypothesis faces a challenge based on comparative analysis. Even the smallest known parasites, stripped down to their minimal cellular components, do not resemble viruses in any significant way. This absence of similarity raises questions on whether viruses could have actually originated from parasitic cells. Despite these critiques, the regressive hypothesis does offer a fascinating perspective on the origin and evolution of viruses. It suggests a process of reduction and simplification, a sort of reverse complexity, which contrasts with the usual narrative of evolution. The regressive hypothesis provides another perspective, but it too has its challenges. In the next scene, we'll explore the third hypothesis in this debate, the virus-first hypothesis, which offers yet another unique view on the origin and evolution of viruses. Stay tuned to delve deeper into the mysteries of these microscopic invaders. Finally, we come to the virus-first hypothesis, a theory that takes us back to the very beginning of life itself. This hypothesis posits that viruses predate even the earliest cellular life forms, harking back to a time when life was nothing more than a soup of inorganic molecules coming together to form organic molecules. In this primordial mix, viruses may have emerged as simple aggregates of proteins and nucleic acids. Over time, the theory suggests these protoviruses evolved to become the complex parasites we know today. As the organic molecules around them evolved to form cell walls, membranes, and other components of a true cell, viruses remained in their simpler, acellular form. They developed the ability to infect these newly formed cells, using them to replicate and spread. But the virus-first hypothesis is not without its own mysteries. If viruses did indeed come first, how did they replicate and survive without a host cell? This question challenges our very definition of what a virus is, forcing us to reconsider our understanding of these fascinating organisms. The virus-first hypothesis gives us yet another perspective, but it also poses its own set of questions. As with all scientific theories, it's a reminder that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving, that every answer we find only leads to more questions. It's a thrilling journey of discovery, one that we're all a part of. So, where does that leave us? We've covered the progressive, regressive, and virus-first hypotheses, each with its unique perspectives and challenges. Yet, the origin of viruses remains a mystery. We grapple with questions like, did viruses exist before the last universal common ancestor? Or how did the very first viruses replicate and survive without host cells? While we may not have all the answers, the journey to understanding the origins of viruses is a fascinating one that continues to unfold.